Hey there, Michael Kuhlman here. It's a rainy day here in Altamont Springs, Florida. Um, Thanks for clicking on the video. The clip you're about to watch is part of actually like an hour and 40 long minute video that I kind of put together where I reviewed a bunch of other books and authors, the books off my shelf. So if you're interested in this clip, check out that larger video. Thank you for clicking on the video. All right, well, let's talk about this one. This is an okay book, but a really good author. C.S. Friedman, Feast of Souls. Fantasy book. It's about a young girl who finds that she has powers, kind of like a witch. Well, actually, not really. So in this world, magic is like all the only people that can practice magic are men, and they take power from other people. Like, they take life force, sucking it out of other people, and then they use it, and sometimes for evil, sometimes for good. But then the women, the witches who have the ability to do it, it takes it from their own essence. And so it's very male, female energy. Men tend to take from other people and use other people's power and sap their other people's energy, and women use it for themselves to provide healing for others. While there's a very sad story of a woman in her 30s or something like that who resembles a very old woman, and she's done so much good around her village that nobody knows about, and her final moments are sitting in her cottage by the fire, and she heals a child, and then that saps the last of her essence, and she kind of dies falling asleep. And it's just, that's sort of the intro. So that's the setting of the world, and our main character is the first female who goes through the transition and becomes a magister, which is, she takes power from others, and she's like super rebellious. And so another female author, C.S. Friedman. What I think is interesting is I actually know a friend of mine, David, growing up, met her and used to do like Dungeons and Dragons with this author. And so that was kind of cool. And then she knew Stephen King, because there's only, at the time, like 2006, I would say, there were only, 2009 is when he told me this, is that there were only like 500 full-time authors in the United States. It's like a surprisingly low number. And so they used to go to conferences, and they all knew each other. So she used to like hang out with Stephen King, at least that's my understanding. And so that's kind of like, playing what's it called, Bacon, like Francis Bacon. Is it Francis Bacon? No, he was a scientist. There's 6 degrees of separation, and so that's my 4-degree separation from knowing Stephen King. So I think that's awesome. My friend David knows C.S. Friedman, and I believe that I believe it's a marketing ploy that her first name is, I don't know exactly. I could do my research, but she goes by C.S. Friedman so that when you just glance on the shelf, I don't know if there's some bias or something, like probably me. I would fall victim to this bias if I didn't know who she was and get recommended to her books. Is you pass by if you see a female author. Kind of an interesting point. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah. So this book was just okay. There's 3 in the series. I only read the first one. I really had to convince myself to get through this. The reason I picked it up in the first place is because it was recommended to me, but really it's because of this author, C.S. Friedman. She wrote, let's talk about that book. She wrote another series of books that is just awesome. It's these ones. These ones are so good. Black Sun Rising. And this is part of the, let's see, Coldfire? No. The one before this was Coldfire Trilogy. And no, this one is called Coldfire Trilogy. And so this is the first book. As you can see, it's well worn. I've read this book twice and given it out to people. And man, this book is just so good. So, like, such good world building. This is about, like, this guy on the front cover is a priest of some sort, and like the magic system is really interesting. I won't be able to recall all the details, but I remember just going through. It's a sci-fi fantasy, meaning that it takes place in the future, but it's a fantasy book, and it's just awesome. Like, it's what's so awesome about it? Because I just remember it being really good. Really good characters. They go on an adventure where they have to, like, go into another dimension. And so kind of the first half of the book is establishing this really good world building with really interesting characters. And then halfway through, they have to travel to another, within that world, they have to pass through the veil. And it's like almost like they're going through hell or a different dimension. And it's just unbelievable. It's so good. And then the characters come back for the second book when True Night falls. And then there's a third one. And that one's called Crown of Shadows. And I might have some of these orders wrong. You know, you guys have Google, but would highly recommend that series from C.S. Friedman. I got to reread those because I don't really remember the plot, but I just remember it being awesome. Let's go